What's up guys, I'm AK and in today's video I'm going to be going over my top 5 tips for beginners at Warzone. So these tips are meant for anyone, I guess, that either hasn't won yet or is looking to try and win more consistently. Say you've only won a couple of times, or admit it to yourself, your team carried you when you did. Essentially these are just little tips to help you win more consistently at Warzone, and for those of you that like to play in teams, I guess be more of an asset to your team. So yeah, be sure to take these on. Now, this is my first video in what will probably be a 3-part series, I'm guessing. So there's going to be top 5 tips for beginners, and then top 5 tips for maybe intermediate, sort of like moderately good players, and then at the end I'll have my top 5 tips for experienced players, just to sort of properly help improve your game to win as much as I guess is possible. So without further ado, let's get into the tips. So before we get into this, I do want to give, I guess, one bonus tip. The reason it's a bonus tip is it doesn't really apply to everyone, but it's playing with a team. Now, getting a team does help. Simply, if you just look at it from a statistics point of view, solos is 1 in 150, give or take, and then a team is 3 in 150, or what, 1 in 50. So your odds are 3 times higher just having 3 times the players on your team. But I understand quite a lot of people don't like playing with teams, especially if it's just randoms online. You'd probably rather play by yourself, and to be honest, I kind of fall into that category. I'd say a good 70% of my games that I've played have been solos, so I know it doesn't apply to everyone, but especially with being able to sort of buy people back into the game and all the stuff like that, I think playing with a team is a good way to help get more wins, I guess, whether you like it or not. So tip number 1 is going to be getting a feel for the game. Now, what does this mean? This means understanding game mechanics and sort of how the game plays, because you might have played a lot of Call of Duty in the past, but Modern Warfare is quite different, sort of just in the whole way that the gameplay plays. I mean, it's still Call of Duty, it still feels quite like a Call of Duty game, but it might take a while to sort of get used to that, and getting used to the game is what I'd advise for players that maybe have just downloaded Warzone and maybe haven't bought the full game. So I believe Activision have recently put a multiplayer free trial. If you're watching this video close to the upload day, I'll show a tweet up on the screen now. So yeah, you can have a look at that, and if that's still going, then yeah, sure, hop into a game of multiplayer and just sort of get a feel for the game, because Warzone, I guess every fight that you come into is, I guess, if you die, then you're out. Whereas in multiplayer, you've got a lot more time to, I guess, just learn how to play the game, so that when you do come into those gunfights in Warzone, you feel a lot more confident, and then ultimately have a higher chance of getting kills and winning the game. Now, another thing you can do for this first tip, if you don't have multiplayer, or the multiplayer free trial thing has run out by the time you're watching this video, is drop into the first zone on the map that the plane covers, where simply the most people are going to be, and then don't think about winning the game, just think about getting as many kills as you possibly can. Just think about getting in the most engagements that you can, to just try and improve your gun skill and your feel for the game as quickly as possible, because I guess the best way to learn how to play the game is by playing the game. And yeah, while maybe camping in a building for half an hour might be a good way to get into the final 10, it doesn't really teach you much about the mechanics of the game. So for 10 games, just hop down to the most busy place on the map, the first zone that the plane flies over, and just go for as many kills as you can. Now, I'm sure there'll be quite a few sort of other not so skilled players that drop down in that area, so it does give you a chance to get some kills as well, and yeah, pad out your stats a bit, I guess. So tip number 2 is making a class that you're completely comfortable with. Now, quite recently, they have upped the amount of cash that it takes to buy your weapon classes in, your loadout drops from 6,000 to 8,500, which I guess makes the game a bit more balanced, because as you'll see with this tip, if you can make a perfect class, then you're pretty set, to be honest. What I'll do is I'll show my class up on the screen now. So this is my class here. We have an M4 and a sniper, as well as a few other little bits at the bottom. We've got some perks there. They're just ones that I like, and the heartbeat sensor, that is a very important one to have. Quite a lot of people don't realise how good the heartbeat sensor is, but being able to see people through walls, especially if you don't have a headset. I mean, if you don't have a headset, make that another tip. Definitely get a headset, even if it's just some earphones, whatever. Being able to hear the game sound. I know there's some bugs with footsteps and that in the game that aren't quite perfect, but it definitely is definitely better to have them than to not have them. So yeah, do consider getting a headset if you don't already. But yeah, so essentially you need to build yourself a class that you're completely comfortable with. Now, as I said, if multiplayer is still open at the time you're watching this video, go into there. It's a really quick way to level up your weapons, be able to get a whole load of good attachments. If you really need to, just copy my class. It's quite a good class. The M4 gives you decent sort of close range, mid to close range engagements, and then the sniper's obviously always good for long distance. If you're not good with a sniper, don't bother wasting your spot on the sniper. Maybe go for Ghost or something. That's good, especially because a lot of people are using UAVs nowadays. So I guess putting Ghost in your class, in your perk 2, I believe Ghost is, over Overkill might be a good idea. But yeah, so essentially, once you've built yourself a nice good class that you're completely comfortable with, it's a weapon that you enjoy, then your goal will be in the game to try and earn that as quick as possible, so that you can get this class that you definitely know you're good with and you know you can get kills with. Okay. Tip number 3 is learn the Gulag. Now, if you're not very good at the game, you have probably spent quite a bit of time in the Gulag, and chances are don't have a very high win rate in the Gulag. So I have made a video in the past, in fact the last video that I made was how to do better in the Gulag, so there'll be a link to that in the description if you want to go give that a watch after this video. And that essentially highlights basically how to win the Gulag more often. I'd say using the tips. I mean, I use the tips from that video, and I'd say I have a good 80–90% win rate in the Gulag. So it's a good way to make sure you can get back in the game. And a quick thing I'll add on top of that: when you're respawning from the Gulag, especially if it's quite late into the game and most places that are in the zone have been looted, it's quite often a good idea just to hover in the sky for a bit, like drop your parachute and just wait around, because if one of the loadout drops, sort of one of the random loadout drops spawns, you can go down straight from spawning in and then instantly get the class that I guess you had when you died, if you had already called in a weapon drop, or if not, it gives you the class that I guess you want without having to pay the 8,500 or whatever you've got to pay to call it in by yourself. So yeah, waiting in the air for a bit, it's what I do. And yeah, it just helps you make sure that you can spawn back in with something that's, I guess, better than a pistol. So yeah, tip 3, go watch the video and hopefully you'll have more success in the Gulag. Tip number 4 is picking a consistent drop point and learning it inside out. Now, it doesn't have to be anywhere big. If you're not too great at the game, I definitely suggest not picking one of the big sort of town, city areas. I'll show you the point that I pick. In fact, if you go to the first clip at the start of this video where I get the 3-piece off spawn, that is where I go every game. That little small area, that's where I go every game. It's sort of my spot. I know it inside out. I know where all the chests spawn. I know that sometimes there's a buy zone there, and there's a sort of a jeep thing that spawns near there as well. So I know that place really well, and I can loot that quite quick. Sometimes people go there. It's not the busiest of locations, but as you can see from, or if you did see from the clip at the start, there were at least 5 people or 6 people that dropped there off the start. I mean, the plane did fly pretty much over it, but it's a good spot, and that is where I go. I'd say 80–85% of games. Obviously, if the plane flies a completely different way, getting there will either take too long or just not really be practical, then I'll go somewhere else. But generally, if I can, that's where I'll go. So pick a spot that you love and I guess learn it inside out. Don't make it somewhere too busy, but don't make it too quiet, because then you won't get a chance to I guess get any kills, and to improve you want to be getting kills. So yeah, I guess just pick a spot that you like that isn't too busy, but you know, has some good loot, and I guess if it's got any vehicles, buy zones, potentially any of those field order things that you can do, then that's all a bonus. Finally, on to tip number 5, that is knowing your win conditions. Now, theoretically, you only need 1 kill to win a game of Warzone. If you get that final kill in the final circle, you can win the game. Now, would I advise that? No. And is it very likely that you'd even manage to get to the end, having no kills? Again, I doubt it. But you need to know what you need to do to win. So if you're not very good at the game, going for unnecessary kills, I guess chasing people outside of the zone, these are all things that you don't have to do. And if you want a higher chance of winning, then not doing these things is probably is probably a good idea, because I guess they all increase your chance of dying. So obviously go for kills that you think you're confident you can get, and the kills that you have to get, say someone is between you and the zone, killing them would be obviously the right thing to do. But yeah, make sure that you're not doing anything stupid. Continuing on from the last point, this also I guess leads on to this as well, that if your spot is right where the plane flies over, maybe don't drop there, even if it's your spot and you know it well. If the plane flies straight over, you've got to consider that a lot of the, I guess, more skilled players like to drop to the busy places off the start, because they can get a lot of kills, go for the, I guess, the high kill gameplays and stuff like that. So consider maybe dropping somewhere else, a bit off the plane's direct path, and yeah, I guess just play it slowly, play at your pace, and do what you need to do. Now, all the tips that I've said in this video are from the perspective that I'm writing them, apply to solos, because that's generally what I play. But these all do apply to teams as well. So I guess if you do tend to play in teams, which I'm guessing is most people, I think solos aren't the most popular, but they do apply to teams as well. Like being good in the Gulag, that helps your team. It means they don't have to pay $4,500 to call you back in. And being good at the game, or just sort of getting a feel for the game, again, that helps your team. Means that you can, I guess, return the favour by carrying your teammates every so once in a while. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found something useful. Keep an eye out for, I guess, the next 2 top 5 for intermediate players, and then quite skilled players as well. So they'll be coming not too long in the future. But thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you guys soon.